everyone. I am Astha and right now I am in Mumbai. In my background, what you see is modern buildings lining the cityscape. In this video, we will be discussing about modern buildings from 1990 to 2020. We will also talk about the social issues that were linked with the architecture of this time period. Continue watching for more. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome to our video on evolution of modern Indian architecture from 1990 to 2020. In this video, we will see what is modern architecture and how it began in India, followed by prominent architects of this period. We will witness the evolution process in detail through some of the iconic projects, along with understanding how architecture of a time responded to its socio-economic and technological changes. Finally, we will conclude the whole video with a concise overview. So let us start with what is modern architecture. Modernism as an architectural style emerged in the late 19th century with revolution in technology, engineering and building materials. It desired to break away from the historical styles and invent something that was entirely new and functional. With this, form of a building started following its function. Modernist materials like RCC glass and steel were employed with innovative technologies. Ornamentation of a building became minimalistic with the idea that less is more, and openness was embraced by interior plans. Modern architecture made its significant footfall in India after around 1947 when it got independent from Britishers. With independence, India had its own challenges and opportunities. On one side, the partition had caused an influx of millions of refugees in boundary states and thereby demanding a massive housing program. While on the other side, country was faced with the severe lack of resources and trained professionals. It all began when Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru invited world-famous architect Lee Corbusier to design the city of Chandigarh. It then became known as one of the best experiments in urban planning of 20th century in India. After that, many architects were inspired by his work and started implementing similar ideas. Thus, the modern architecture was revolutionized and a search for an appropriate Indian identity began. Some of the prominent figures that shaped the architectural landscape of modern India are Raj Rewal, Baby Doshi, Charles Correa, Sirish Berry, Chitra Viswanathan, and Sanjay Puri, to name a few. Now, let us dive right into the evolution journey of Indian architecture from 1990 to 2020. In 1991, faced one of the revolutionary events of economic liberalization that changed the India forever. It was the day when Manmohan Singh, the finance minister of that time, presented a landmark budget setting India on a new economic path. As a part of this reform, economic border was opened up to multinational companies and foreign investors. Like all the other sectors, this event massively transformed the built environment of India. As a direct implication, there was an influx of MNCs in the country which inherently brought with them this shockingly different architecture of glass and steel, something that was totally alien to India. This mindless adoption of Western architecture in India gave the least respect to the climate, materials, skills, and cultural value of the region. Soon, these global structures, entirely detached from their locality, started changing the skylines of Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, with glass boxes and aluminum cladding facades. And at a point, it seemed that the Indian contemporary architecture was almost lost. On the other side, the nation's population was exploding and the cities were started falling short of habitable spaces. The beneficial impact of liberalization was yet to come and the majority of population was still economically deprived. Thus, India was faced with the complex, difficult question of how to create accommodation for the large population living on subsistence income. As an attempt to address the challenge came the project of Sitco Locos housing in Navi Mumbai. For this, Raj Rewal's practice was commissioned to plan 1,000 units for residents on the edge of a larger planning area in New Mumbai. For a project, it was important not just to provide the bare essential in terms of space, but above all to develop a home environment that was simple but of high quality. Drawing inspirations from India's traditional and vernacular architecture, Rewal created a complex of multiple units and blocks varying in size and configuration. The project was designed as a high density structure because the area available was strictly limited and also to provide the quality outdoor space that was effective in urban terms yet resembling of a naturally developed village. Reval accommodated a very high level of social interaction typical of everyday Indian life, where people do not just live in their own homes but are in close contact with neighbors, friends, and fellow occupants. One important consideration was of selecting the materials that are durable, low on maintenance, as well as cheap enough to fit with a very tight financial framework. The final choice was a combination of concrete cavity blocks, exposed plasterwork, handmade terracotta tiles, and locally available rough granite stones. A building kit system was developed with the cube as a basic element, where each unit was occupied with the essential sanitary facilities and water tanks on the roof for a constant water supply. A structure that finally emerged was of an homogeneous entity with modern form entirely committed to its time. And this project was seen as the answer to the difficult challenge of providing viable habitat to high density community with low income. Moreover, during the same period, Slum Rehabilitation Authority was formed by the Maharashtra state with the so envisioned vision of slum-free Mumbai. The next project is of Vidhan Sabha in Bhopal by Charles Correa. The building is located on the crest of the Arera hill overlooking the Madhya Pradesh capital city of Bhopal. The whole building presents a pleasing vision of powerful curves and straight vertical and horizontal lines. It finds its resemblance in Bhopal's history from Stupa of Sanchi to great capital of Mandu. The plan derives its inspiration from mandalas and consists of a series of spaces divided into 9 compartments focusing around a center representing nothingness. Administrative offices are located on the two perpendicular axes and remaining four corners are occupied with specialized functions. The administrative buildings form the decisive part of architectural experience. While walking around the galleries, people's movement resembles the ritual circumambulatory path around the Sachi Stupa. This use of intellectual construct of spaces made the Korea's work more conceptual architecture rather than one determined by site, material, climate, and economics alone, and thereby making a powerful architectural statement.
So here we are in the 2000s. This time period was marked with the birth of the billionth baby in India. India reached this billion mark in 2000, and all of this rise in population contributed to the architecture and the people. So on the bottom right, we have the Dharavi slums, and there is a population density of 66,000 people living per square kilometer. It is like 10 to 12 people living in one house of the dimensions of 3 cross 3 meters. Yes, you heard it right. It's as small as 3 cross 3 meters, and you have 10 to 12 people living in it. So, all of this population rise contributed to a space crunch in cities like Mumbai and Delhi. Another major event that happened in the 2000s was the Bhuj earthquake, which took place in 2001 in Gujarat. On the right is the picture of the destruction caused by the earthquake, and this resulted in creation of a lot of reforms in the construction and architecture practices so that the buildings could be more resilient. There was a new plan proposed for the Bhuj city so that there were wider roads and they could provide for easy emergency exits for people. The IGBC was formed in 2001, and it was a remarkable event in the sense that this organization focused on sustainable architecture and design. So it promoted the architectural practices which were more sustainable and environmentally more responsive. Moving on to projects, this is the Indian Parliament Library by Raj Rewal. On the left, we have the beautiful interior view of the roof, and on the right, there is a interior space which is a quite library. And here is a video of the site from Google Maps. You can see the circular Parliament of India building and the Parliament Library situated just right beside it. And on the top left, you can see some plants. Actually, this building was to be constructed symmetrically, but then the natural landscape was respected and these trees were not cut. So, this is what the final plan looks like. I like the way they respected the nature, and this was a very site responsive project. Next, we have this photo of it shows that the whole of the library was at a lower level compared to the Parliament building. So, this was to show that the library is not higher than the Parliament building, it respects the main building, and also it has sort of a humble horizontal form, and at the same time, it is not losing its architectural statement. Here we have the glass dome, which provides for natural daylight into the library, and here is a 3D plan, the model, and some views of the very beautiful Parliament Library. The next and very important project is the Godrej Green Business Center in Hyderabad. It is a very green building because it has a lot of conservation in terms of resources like water in the washrooms, and also these green roofs provide for a reduction in the heat gain, and you have solar panels. All of this building design is constructed so as to reduce the energy consumption and reduce the consumption of natural resources. Here you have a yellow car on the bottom left. It is actually used for transport within the premises, and it is an electric car, so it's a better option than your usual cars. And what you see on top left is actually a jali, so it provides natural daylight and also it acts as ventilation, and plants grow inside the jali because of the rainwater that seeps in through the jalis. So this project was significant because it promoted the green architecture and it proved as an inspiration. In this time period, we saw that there was a rising awareness about green buildings, which had reduced consumption of resources and they were very energy efficient. This is the Manav Sadhana Activity Center, come Crush, and it was built with recycled waste materials. You can see that here is a wall with glass bottles, and it's also nice to look at. You have the colors and you have an aesthetic appeal, but at the same time, it's recycled waste. And on the bottom, you have this gate, which is not your usual iron metal gate. It's actually made of recycled cycle parts with gears and wheels. It is not just functional, but it is also aesthetic to look at. And all of these pictures on the right are of the recycled materials like the earth blocks or the glass bottles or plastic bottles or waste ceramic tiles that add up to the aesthetic value and the environmental responsiveness to the project. So overall, this project proved as an inspiration, and many projects around this one emerged following the similar concept of recycling waste materials for construction. And this project also won a lot of awards nationally and internationally, so it is significant. This is the $1 billion residence owned by the Ambanis in Mumbai, and it is the most expensive residence owned by anyone. It is a 27-floor building with 600 staff for a family of 5 people. It is controversial in the sense that there is this building and then there are slums in the same city, and just side by side. Actually, this picture shows the contrast much more, and some might argue that there is no need to own such a residence because it just shows that it just highlights the gap in your country, while some might think that it is okay to flaunt what you have earned. So, in this sense, this project was very remarkable, and some also believe that it shows to the world that India is not a poor country and there are rich people also in India, and India is developing and modern because this whole building has a very modern appeal to it. So, with this, we reached the 2010s, and that was all from my side.
Now let us look at the project that attempts to create an inclusive architecture through its holistic design approach. This project is of Yellow Train School located in Coimbatore and designed by Biomi Environment. The brief for the project was to follow the essence of Waldorf education system along with following the bylaws laid by the Tamil Nadu Board of Education. Waldorf system stresses hugely on child-centric education, wherein more importance is given on mental, spiritual, physical, and psychological development rather than only the academic. About its planning, an individual classroom was divided into three spaces: a space where teacher leads with the blackboard and seating, circle areas where group activity occurs, and a nooks that allow for individual contemplation. Play is a very important part of the system. Coimbatore being a hot climate, play spaces have been brought in within the buildings and thereby making them accessible to children at all times. Caves and spaces lit through jalis were provided to allow for explorations and the creation of fantasy. An open air theater within the interior encourages the children to create impromptu acts. While a learning space is created, boundaries were stretched for exploring the ecological issues. The entire roof's water is harvested and stored as well as recharged. The building is completely accessible by a ramp. It is daylit and ventilated passively. Thus, the project was designed to holistically cater the needs of early childhood development along with minimizing its own ecological footprint. Now, let us briefly touch upon some of the national schemes and missions that have widely impacted the built environment of country. In 2014, Swachh Bharat mission was launched by the Indian government to solve the problems of sanitation and waste management across the country. The main aim of the project was to create sanitation facilities for all and provide every rural family with a toilet by 2019. Under this mission, over 9 crore toilets were constructed all over the country with an increase in rural sanitation coverage to 98% by 2019 as claimed by the officials. Nextly, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana was launched in the year 2015 with an objective to provide housing for all in urban areas by the year 2022. And as a part of this scheme, a program for in situ slum redevelopment was also planned. Under the PMAY scheme, 1.12 crore houses in urban areas, along with the generation of 3.65 crore jobs in its construction, are targeted by 2022. And about the progress, 32 lakh houses were already completed by February 2020, as stated by the Housing Minister. Smart Cities Mission was launched in 2015 with an objective to promote the development of sustainable and inclusive cities and give a decent quality of life to its citizens. Under this mission, 100 smart cities are proposed over the different parts of the countries that will drive economic growth and local area development by harnessing technology that leads to smart outcomes. Now let us look at a contemporary project that stands for strongly representing the Indian identity. The Namaste Tower in Mumbai, designed by Atkins Design Studio, aims to become a landmark structure representing the growing economic and cultural significance of India. With 62 stories, the tower is 984 square feet high. It is currently under construction and will include a hotel, office, and retail spaces. The traditional Indian greeting of Namaste, where the hands are clasped together, is the inspiration for the design of the tower. The two wings of the hotel are clasped together like hands greeting the city of Mumbai. This is meant to be the ultimate symbol of hospitality and welcome. The tower has been designed to offer wedding space for Indian Mehndi ceremony. Traditional Indian patterns of Mehndi appear as a theme on the building scheme. Guided by the imperative to design the circulation areas of the hotel as impressive as the rooms themselves, architects created internal gardens, bringing the greenery into the corridors and atrium spaces. On corridor ends, open spaces offer a dramatic and framed view over the city. With full dining, lounge areas, and offices, presidential and royal suites will offer some of the finest accommodation in entire subcontinent. Regarding energy efficiency, large-scale canopies support solar thermal connectors with the potential to provide 12% of the energy required to heat the hot water in the hotel. The orientation and massing of the skyscraper were designed to benefit from visual relations with Indian Ocean, Mumbai Peninsula, and adjacent towers. As this ultra-high tower will be seen from a great distance, the visual appearance of this project will be of great importance to the city of Mumbai.
To conclude our video, we had seen that the earlier focus was on low-cost housing, and now it's shifting to smart cities. We have green buildings, and sustainability is a major part. We see that there's a difficulty to describe the contemporary trends in Indian architecture, which is due to the coexistence of various approaches that has enriched the architecture. So the search is still on for appropriate Indian architecture, but there exists no single paradigm. We hope that through this video, you could form an image of what was evolution of the Indian modern architecture from 1990 to 2020, and you could link it with the social issues. That was all, and thanks for watching.